as we continue to mark a year since the 2021 July unrest. Earlier today, Defence Minister Thandi Modise said government is determined to never allow this tragedy to happen again. Over 350 people were killed in the social unrest and the economy suffered a 50 billion rand loss. At a time when the country felt very divided, some businesses, though, in Hillcrest and Westmead decided to try find a more inclusive approach. Let's find out what that approach was. We're joined by Nzama from the Greater Westmead Association. Mr. Nzama, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. So the expert panel report pointed out that socio-economic ills that make the population vulnerable to criminal conduct need to be looked at, that government at all levels must seriously attend to the socio-economic challenges facing the economy. Here you are as a civil society group. You decided to plug in the gap. Tell us about your initiative.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all the viewers at home. Well, what we tried to do was we realized that there was too much tension in the air at the time, and the tension was predominantly along racial lines. So what we tried to do was to actually say, how do we de-escalate the situation? Because there was just too much happening at the time. So subsequently, our efforts bore very good fruits. One of which we formed an organization now called the Outer West Business and Community Initiative, which predominantly looks at what initiatives can be that the communities in the urban and the rural and the township and the townships surrounding the Outer West or within the Outer West, how can we come together to create an inclusive economy?
And if you can just talk us through how that has progressed in the year in terms of people that were absorbed and some jobs created.
Look, there's been a lot of either one-on-ones, because remember, in the Outer West there is the Westmead Industrial, then you've got Waterfall, the Bracken Hill area, which was heavily impacted. But you've also got a lot of shops, small stores, small businesses, and even employers, people who employ people such as domestic workers, which were all affected. So what we've tried to do is to create an environment where everyone feels more comfortable. Because remember, after looting, there was a lot of fear of people. I mean, there was a lot of issues about black people going to raid white people's houses and what have you. So we had to dispel all that and actually try and communicate the right messages along the communities. So there's been a lot of opportunities that have been created through the dialogues that the communities have had, through the NPO engagements, because there's a lot of NPOs that are operating within the Outer West, and we realized then that a lot of the work that was being done by these NPOs is not recognized in the townships and the valleys, because therefore there's a them and us that, oh no, the white people or the people in the suburbs are having it good whilst we're suffering. Whilst there's a lot of CSI investment that's going in, but more than that, there's a lot of local employment as well. So we've now gone deliberate to say, if there is things that are being sourced in the Outer West, if an entrepreneur or a business is looking for employees, let us employ within the areas that are surrounding us. We've encouraged all the businesses in our area to say, you need to employ local, because that then makes sure that the money is circulating locally, and also ensures that we have less crime, because the more employment you have, the less crime you have. And but we've took it a step further. We said even businesses as well. We've encouraged businesses to also give the smaller SMMEs an opportunity. So be it you need a painter, be it you need a tiler, or you need a plumber, or whatever services that you might need, look local first. We've taken that and even a step further now. There's an app that is being developed that should go live within the next month or two, that will now advertise jobs within the area and advertise small business opportunities and service providers within the area.
I guess this also speaks to the fact that if something like this, touch wood, ever were to happen again, then people would protect this ecosystem that you have created, because they know if you are impacted, then I am impacted.
Because people now take ownership of the economy. There's no such thing as that it's a white-owned economy, or it's a, so we're trying to say, you know what, let us all, we're not going to say white people get out of your businesses, black person come in. But however, what we are saying is that let's create opportunities. Those who've got the means to create opportunities for others, so that everybody takes ownership, so that we can build this nation properly. Because to build the nation, you need everybody to participate. We need all hands on deck. But for all the hands to go on deck, people need to know, because everybody at the end of the day is struggling to put bread and butter on the table. So for people to be able to have those means, we all need to work together to create an all-inclusive economy.
Speaking of an all-inclusive economy, you also do run the Boys to Men initiative, taking a particular look and trying to rehabilitate, but also foster a sense of mentorship for young men to give them a purpose about themselves. Just tell us a little bit more about the interventions where this is concerned. This is also taking a look at a country that is plagued by gender-based violence. What kind of conversations are being had with these boys?
Look, the thing is, I always say we've been having the gender-based violence and women empowerment conversation the wrong way, because all along we've looked at empowering the girl child and empowering women and teaching women about their rights. But we've not really looked at, okay, once a woman knows her rights, who does she interact with? She's still interacting with the same men or with the same young boy who doesn't really recognize those rights and doesn't really even know himself personally. So where we've started with, where did our fathers go wrong? Where did things go wrong? So we've started saying there's been, because of, again, going to how the economy of this country was structured, a lot of fathers have been absent. Put aside the issues of fathers who leave their kids and what have you, but let's look at the systemic problem, where a lot of fathers had to go and work away from homes. So that problem over the years has been perpetuated. So a lot of families are headed by mothers. So therefore, the boy child grows up without knowing what it is to be a real man. So the conversations that we are now having with these young boys is to say, being a real man doesn't mean you don't cry. Being a real man doesn't mean you're not in touch with your feelings. Being a real man doesn't mean you have to be strong all the time, because one of the major issues is exactly that, men thinking that they have to be strong all the time, and then when things really affect him, he then bursts. He'll either take a gun and shoot someone or shoot his entire family, because we don't know how to handle pressure. So those are the things that basic conversations, basically it's going back to the basics. So what we do is we get men to actually come and gather around and actually have share their journeys in life with these young boys, because a lot of boys do not have a father figure. A lot of boys actually look up to the wrong figures in terms of what you call role models. We think that being a real man is about having a lot of girlfriends, having a lot of cars, or having a lot of fancy assets so that you can afford to pay a bill at whatever club, whatever tavern. So we need to go back to the basics of how do we create a better society. And men have to be a huge part of creating that society, not just economically, but also in the family structure, ethically as well. We need to look at those. And we, as the older generation, need to look at the mistakes that we've made and say, how do we make sure that our kids, our sons, do not repeat the same mistakes that we've made?
Nick Nzama from the Greater Westmead Association, ending that conversation.